Hey, to the United States. While Biden was in Scranton, a ammunition plant in Scranton on Monday had a fire at 3:20 p.m. The news feed was held up for 48 hours. So here we go. We're at a war. We have a munitions plant fire. The President of the United States is there, and they had a media blackout so they couldn't tell anybody what was going on. So hold on a second. Let me find the other story right here. Yeah, this is a much better picture. Look at that fire. Broke out at 3 o'clock. Lots of smoke. Nobody injured. They make these shells. Holy moly. So we just went to Ridgefield to talk. I'm from Pound Ridge, the town next door, and I lived in Norwalk since 2006. But I spoke. It went well. John Fry, the RNC guy, who's been in the party for probably, 40 years, gets up at the end and says, "Mr. Flynn, I have a question for you." Now keep in mind, he worked with Leora Levy, who they put up for U.S. Senate last time against Blumenthal, who had a conflict of interest, I might add. And we had a whole question about why she was pro-life, and I argued with him, and he remembers the conversation, I'm sure. So he says to me, "Well, how are you going to raise money, Mr. Flynn?" And I bit my tongue, and I said, "Well, how much are you going to write a check for?" Obviously, he's not going to write me a check. I've written him many times asking him for donations, so here we go. I said, "Well, gee, how much are you going to write me a check for?" And he asked me the same question again. "Miss John, explain how you're going to raise money." And what I should have said, in regretting driving home, I should have said, "Hey, you ran the party for the state for 40 years, and from 2006 they've been rigging the elections, which is 17 years, I might add. And you expect me to write check after check after check, which I've been doing, with no support from him, while he undermines candidates and puts the lady in charge who has a conflict of interest, who ran. And that's why we lost so many seats in Connecticut, because she couldn't help anyone else. She was running for herself. She wrote a check herself. I wrote a check myself. He expects me to fund my own U.S. Senate race. The most important seat in America is Chris Murphy's seat, next to Richard Blumenthal. Okay? Chris Murphy is DHS U.S. Senate Subcommittee Chair, and he's Foreign Relations for Ukraine, Israel, and Iran. The most important seat in the country, and John Fry, RNC Chair, I believe, or I think Leora Levy's running to get it, to keep her spot, and we have another candidate locally running. And here we are. She doesn't take my call. She doesn't return my emails. He doesn't take my call. He doesn't return my emails. He lives in Ridgefield, which was the next town over from where I grew up. I lived in Pound Ridge till I was 18. And you must ask, I'm 60. He's probably 70. I don't know. But he's running the RNC and asking me how I'm going to raise money, not how he's going to assist the U.S. Senate seat, which is the most important seat in the country. So John Fry has never written me a check. I've asked 3 times, at least. Fine. He expects me to make up for his election fraud, which he's in charge of, pretty much. Connecticut destroys the cast vote record, and John Fry had a duty to the state of Connecticut to demand that the cast vote record be produced to check against the actual tabulator as it was scanned back to the voting actual hard copy. The memory cards are destroyed. That's on John Fry. Johnny, how you going to raise money? Well, that's your job, bro. My job is to educate people, handshake, meet and greet. Nobody has any money. I don't need money to beat John Fry's candidate. It's rigged. And the party knows. And they're in denial. It's absolutely insanity. The phone keeps ringing. What's up, bro?
I just sent you the YouTube article on the Scranton plant. They'll give you facts, figures, and numbers when you talk about...
Oh, facts on the plant. I see it. Awesome. Let's play it. Okay, I'll play it. I'll call you back.
You go with numbers, Josh. You go with numbers.
Right.
Of shells for large caliber weapons. Today's Watch 16's Courtney Harrison got a behind-the-scenes tour of the facility and shows us the process which helps arm our nation's military.
This is a Joe Courtney issue.
The Scranton Army ammunition plant has operated near downtown Scranton for decades and has been run by General Dynamics since 2006. The plant covers nearly 500,000 square feet, making large caliber metal projectiles for the U.S. military.
Beautiful.
The 155 millimeter round is the biggest focus of production.
Currently, General Dynamics is contracted to make 11,000 rounds, just a little over 11,000 rounds a month. But the last few months they've been making more than the contract quantity.
Newswatch 16 cameras got a tour of the facility, led
Nice.
by the commander's representative, Richard Hansen.
Beautiful.
Each step in the process of making these projectiles is important, from raw metal to finished round, ensuring the quality of the work meets warfighter requirements.
Internal dimensions, external dimensions. He's checking those dimensions in several different locations. And once he's satisfied that he's got all the information that he needs, then he'll put that back on the conveyor and it'll go into a cooling line.
Fascinating.
Here.
Robotics are also a big part of production, including when it comes to the heat needed to forge the metal into cylinders and cylinders into projectiles. Hansen says it can take a few days from start to finish to complete each batch of shells. They are currently working to speed up that process. Earlier this year, the Secretary of the U.S. Army visited the plant, announcing more funding for production upgrades.
Infusion of money that we've gotten over the last 18 months to modernize the facility is going to go a long way in helping us to continue to efficiently produce the part well into the future.
Once the shells are complete, they are kept in
Now,
the facility
did the
before they are
fire-
sent onto another plant
Hello,
in
did the
Iowa to be
fire
loaded with
affect
ammunition.
the production?
Courtney Harrison, Newswatch 16, Scranton.
Answer the question. Jeez Louise. Did the fire affect production? Obviously it did, but we don't know. It was 1 year ago that thing came out. I expect it probably did affect production, folks. So maybe the troops won't be getting the shells this week. Have a nice day. Will it take a year to fix the plant? Who the hell knows? Why don't you cover the story properly? And why don't you cover it in real time? Since Biden's there, they had a news media blackout. Unbelievable.